and on YouTube. All right. So thank you everyone for joining us on our conversation and workshop today. Today we are discussing youth emerging issues and public participation. And the whole idea behind this conversation is for us to understand what are these things that are actually bothering the youth, and are they getting to be part of the solution? When the government decides to come up with measures to solve these issues, uh, are the youth being involved? And we got a couple of youths that are going to help us answer the question of whether the youth emerging issues are being involved, whether the youths are being involved in solving the problems that they actually have to deal with. So thank you for everyone that has joined the conversation. I want us to start with a brief introduction. Our panelists are going to introduce themselves and the organizations that they come from, and then they're going to answer the question of have you ever attended any public participation forum, and how was your experience in general? And then you're going to tell us what are some of the issues you're going to list down, some of the issues that are emerging with the youth today. So we're going to start with Lamek. Lamek, you're going to introduce yourself, and you're also going to tell us, you're going to answer the questions that I have put forward. Make it as brief as possible because we have so many panelists today.
Okay. Thank you so much, Wangeshi Karemi, and everyone else for joining in. Thank you for bringing us on board, and I'm really happy to be here. My name is Lamek Opio. I'm an environmental conservation champion. I'm a youth leader, and I'm currently the district chair for the Green Rotaract concept, whereby we have so many young people that we work along with in the environmental conservation space, and basically across environmental issues as well. And matters governance, I think, is something very, very important to us as young people in our different spheres, no matter the position or the different places that we are in. So for me, yes, I have attended participation, the governance participation, and I think the one I attended, yes, I attended, but basically for this one specifically was geared toward matters, I think, young people, youth inclusion towards climate action, and all the same. It was organized by KIPRA. But basically, I think it wasn't that, it was just they can range it 50% because most of the things that you were being told there are things that most of us, we are very hearing them for the very first time. We've never heard them before. And I really felt that, okay, it's a good idea to bring us on board, but I thought that it was too late and we were not much informed on the main agenda or why we were being brought there on the same. Now to answer your question on some of the most emerging issues that young people are really facing, and I think this is cross-cutting as well. And most specifically, I talk about the socio-economic issues that I think almost every young person from wherever part of the world, not only in Kenya, is really likely or is facing at the moment. Let me start with the most basic one, of which most of us are aware of, is issues with unemployment. There are really high rates of unemployment in this country. We have issues to do with the increase in crime. We have issues to do with mental health. You all know that mental health is another area that most of us are right now having a lot of discussions as well, and it's really a matter that is sorry, it's a matter that is affecting us as young people. We also have issues to do with negative peer pressure as well. We know that peer pressure can be good and it can also be bad at some time, depending on the different spheres that we are looking into it. So we have matters of negative peer influence and all the same. Also, we have if when you look at the youth services, different youth services that we think that are very, very good for us to bring them on board to the young people. Most of them we are limited. And more so in regards also to issues to do with funding, when young people are really trying to drive good projects or having good projects that we would like to do, issues to do with funding is not really, it's a big issue that really I think also needs needs to be given a lot of concern on the same. Another one that I really like to talk about in regards to issues of affecting youth, I think there is okay, this one will be talked much, or we'll dive more into it during the discussion. But I think that most of the times we young people are not meaningfully engaged in most of the initiatives and activities, both by the government and also at some point different corporates as well. and also the opportunities for youth, I think they are limited, and most of the times they don't really get to the right people. So as at now, I'll leave it at there, then I'll be able to share more as time goes by. Thank you, and back to you, Wangeshi.
Okay, thank you so much, Lamek, for that very detailed introduction of yourself and of Green Rotaract concept. Now let's have Emmanuel Gishiro from BMB Eco Group introducing himself and answering the question of, has he ever been part of any public participation forum, the experience, and what are some of the emerging issues that the youths are facing? Emmanuel?
Okay, thank you, Wangeshi. My name is Emmanuel Gishuru. I'm currently the founder and CEO of the BMB Eco Group. What we do at BMB Eco Group is consultancy on matters environment and also social and governance. That is ESG, or in other terms, sustainability. I've been part of the African Youth Initiative on Climate Change, which I was gladly the finance and administration coordinator. Currently, we have been working on the youth engagement strategies at the Reclaiming Africa project C4 ICRAF. So I'm currently a youth leader in Global Landscape Forum on a program called Youth in Landscapes. So that's what I've been engaged in so far. To answer your question on what some emerging issues that youth are facing, I like to say most of these issues are interconnected in some way, because most of the problem that most youth are facing right now is matters deal with depression, that is as a result of maybe unemployment that lead them to another problem, which is drug abuse, maybe sexual activities, such a view. Currently, we are being faced by drought, other effects of climate change that is affecting youth. Maybe some youth are involved in agriculture, and maybe the yield that they expected to harvest has not yet quite been the expectation they had intended it to be. So the other question on me being having attended public participation by the government, yes, I have. I've been involved in the Kenya Forest Service and other stakeholders on matters forest and landscape restoration and other under the climate change action plan that the country is currently trying to develop and has developed previously in the past. We've been trying to see how the youth can be involved in these action plans and the restoration activities that have been taking place and are still taking place. So that's all I can say for now. On if the government has addressed the issues that I've mentioned, I'd say partly. As Lamek has said, funding is one of the issues, although I can't say that the youth fund, which was strategized to offer funding to the youth, and let's say the Uwezo fund has not quite been effective. Like there's a lot of procedures, there's a lot of corruption being taking place in the processes of getting funding. That's why I say it has been addressed partly. I think that's all for me. Back to you, Wangeshi. Thank you. Wangeshi, are you still there?
Yes, I'm
Muted.
still here. Sorry. So now let's go to George Bush. George Bush, you're going to also give us the same introduction. Thank you.
Hello, hi guys. My name is George Bush. I am an advocate of the High Court of Kenya, and I'm working as a legal officer and communications officer at Homeless of Kisumu, which is an organization that offers psychosocial support and economic empowerment to children, vulnerable children and street-connected youth and women in informal settlements in Kisumu. I also volunteer for Kisumu Environmental Champions, which is a group that advocates for climate action and environmental conservation here in Kisumu. Question one, yes, I have been to public participation forums by the government. I have attended climate change forums organized by the Department of Climate Change in Kisumu, and another one organized by the Department of Child Services, because we work majorly with children. And I have also attended a public participation forum on street children, who are some of the beneficiaries that we work with. Number two, issues that face the youth right now. Apart from the traditional issues of unemployment, we have contemporary rising issues such as mental health. We have identity crisis. We have challenges with empowerment and participation in governance and lawmaking and policy formulation. We have challenges regarding education and training, because we find that the 844 system, which most of us have gone through, was tailored towards promoting employment, putting us into the employment sphere. But right now, employment is really a challenge. So adapting to a system of self-employment has become a big challenge. We have issues such as climate change and adaptability, and we have challenges with access to public services. For example, the application process for a passport is really bureaucratic, especially to youths. It's quite a challenge. And then the last one I'll say is gender and sexuality crisis. These are things that are affecting the youth right now, and I think the rest we'll discuss as we go on. Back to you, Ms. Karimi. Thank you.
All right, thank you so much, George Bush. That was a very detailed outlook towards it. So now we can have David. David, I saw he's joined. David, please tell us, introduce yourself and your organization. Answer the question of, have you ever attended any public participation forum held by the government? Tell us how your experience was in the shortest time possible. And also tell us what are some of the emerging issues that the youth are facing. David, to you. Thank you.
Yeah. First, it's myself. I'm from Pulse Movement. As you can see, my label is the Green Pulse Movement. Our organization is based on a CBO organization. We basically focus on building a relationship between a human being and the nature by itself. So we work as an organization, as a Green Pulse Movement. We tend to focus more when it comes to relationship of our human being and environment. Yeah, we noted for quite some times, come to realize that we may try to educate people more about how to plant trees and how to do all these things. But at the end of the day, if you really don't teach them how to have a good relationship with these things, they end up doing it just for the sake of a moment. Yeah, so back to the first question, you asked me if I have, and it was an awesome moment, I can say. Yeah, we had this experience with KWS and the experience with Kenya Forest. Yeah, and I can say I felt like we had been considered to some extent, because we were given a law and we were given this mandate to plant trees and to make sure that we have maintained them to some extent. So I can say, for me, I think I can say for one way or the other, I was part of it, and it was a nice experience. Maybe the second question, what are some of the things that are, yeah, there are a lot of things out there. People are facing a lot of things, but one of the things I've come to realize is that this thing we call drug substances and drug abuse is the same thing, you know. We cannot neglect this thing, say, like, for instance, currently we are having issues of marijuana or weed. And the point is, we try to see the youth, youth as the people when you know, they have played a bad role in it, but at the end of the day, you come to realizing that even from back generation and from our leaders back there, they have been doing all these things. Now, it was just something that, you know, come realizing something that is continuous, something that is going on by and by. So I think with time I will explain that. Back to you, Shishi. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, David Marias. That was a very detailed breakdown of the things that you think um, are emerging issues in the youth today. Now, next we will go to Job. So I can see Job is with us. Please, Job, answer the question of introduce yourself and your organization, and let us know if you've ever attended any public participation forum held by the government, and how is your experience? And then tell us what are some of the emerging issues that the youths are facing today. Kwako, Job.
Hello, everyone. Am I loud and clear?
Yes, you are. We can hear you well.
Oh, I'm very glad for this platform and also for this day. Thank you so much. My name is Job Mwenda Mungania, and I'm the current chairperson of the Young African Leadership Initiative YALI, networking and event Kenyan chapter, and also I work with the organization called the Mask Empowerment Center, which will deal with about issues of inclusivity, of people living with disability, where we provide wheelchairs, training of caregivers, and also food programming. I'm a part of Bible Society of Kenya, volunteer, where I deal with Bible distribution and other programs. So I'm glad to be here, network, to talk and to share. The first question is, have you ever been involved or attended a public baraza? Yes, I've been involved, not once or twice. Currently, I've been involved mainly in Kiambu County, in Githurai sub-county, and also been involved once in our area, that is Embakasi. And it has been amazing experience because last week I've been also been involved about the food relief that the government has given to the people, where you have been part of the county or people helping the government come up with the policies and our ways of distribution it. We've also been involved with disability inclusion programs and also about mentorship. And how was the experience? The experience was amazing. It is nice to interact with these people, to understand them, and to see that government is bringing these people together. But one thing I'll be honest in this is that in our country, the public participation is not that healthy for the youth. Most of the time is what can you offer the government that you're going to be called. I've been in this system, and honestly, I'll be speaking like we need to motivate and empower the youth to attend this public balaza. Most of the time, I will say we'll get like a fraction of the youth attending. The rest are senior citizens. It's not bad. The government, different officials, and things like that. So to me, there is a very big gap also now for us to participate and also for our views to be heard. There is one thing of attending, kukaa hapo kwa hiyo kiti, and also there is another thing that our views are being heard and they're taken for consideration. So let us think about how can we attend and let our views be heard, and also let our views be implemented. Not a big fish coming there and saying this is what you do. So those are some of the things that looking forward, how can we encourage our youth being participated, and also not to be for some people because they have organization, because they have a word. But also let us remember those learned university students, members of the community who have something to say because they have. So looking forward for more engagement, for more interaction, and a healthy discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Job. Job has put forward that he has attended public participation forums, and he has also said that they're not geared for the youth. And that is what we will be discussing today among the many things that we will be discussing. Now, Peter Eput is going to go next. I feel by now that you know the structure of how we're doing these things, Peter. So go ahead, answer the questions for that have been put forward already. Hello, Peter. We can hear you. Just go on ahead.
So that youth regards, or rather, the youth whom our main target can fit in and play a role in leadership at the government. So just a nutshell, that is what it is. You can find more information on our handle, that is top again, and more. So the question, have I ever attended? Yes, I have attended, and unfortunately, it just happened that I attended. Not like I was invited to it, but I just saw like it was a gather, it was a public baraza, that is. And I was not partly involved in whatever was going on there. It was for a fact that was meant for the elderly people of the society, and youths are not like part of the baraza. That is so. Given the fact that I was a youth, I didn't really take part in it. That is the unfortunate part. And the issues affecting the youth, first of all, is mainly about involvement in leadership studies. As you can see from my example, I was not part of it, and in most cases, there's no any platform. Rather, I've never heard of a baraza that is meant for youth. It's always meant for the elderly. So for a fact, I feel like we are left out when it comes to inclusivity in the community, on the issues affecting the community, and decision making. Now, the next question: what are the oh, sorry. So what I would say is there's need champion for youth leadership. There's need champion for youth decision making, so that at least our voice must be heard. We always take in narrative that youth are the leaders of tomorrow. But if you don't prepare earlier today, then how are we supposed to know how we're supposed to behave in the coming future, or which kind of leadership or the structures that we're supposed to put in place so that we ensure things go right. So that's all I have to say for today. Thank you for
Right. Thank you so much, Peter. So Peter has put forward that he's like most of us in this meeting. I'm coming to find out has attended a public participation forum, and in it he was not that's involved in the discussion. He felt like the discussion was geared towards the senior citizens more than it was geared towards him. Now, next we're going to have Paul. Paul is going to introduce himself and he's going to go through the same agenda of things that we have been doing up to this point. So, Paul.
Hello, I don't know if I'm audible enough. So,
Yes, you
my
are.
name is Paul Ohome Okay, so my name is Paul Ohome I am co-founder at Zaidi Africa Team Building, but I am a man of many hats. I am also the lead coordinator for Stand Up Shout Out Adopt a Park campaign that happens at Lake Nakuru National Park. And I think straight to the question, if I have ever attended a public participation, yes, I have a couple actually. My experience was more or less the same as my colleagues have just said. I think I was just there for formality. We just invited there so that there could be youth participation in the same, because the policies had already been written down, and what they wanted was just maybe, I don't know, maybe for the youth to just be seen that they participated in the same. Some of the emerging issues that I think the youths are facing, I think they are common across all the youth, as they have been said. There's an issue of drugs. There's an issue of how youths are being discriminated. I think that is a main issue. And as I leave it at that, I would like to maybe to just mention one thing that someone just passed by me today, and he was telling me that a group of men seated together discussing something known as a baraza. A group of women planning their finances. It's called a chama. But when youths are seated together, they're called jambazis or maybe wakoras, and that is something that is very wanting in this society, and we should actually speak out against the same. So, thank you.
So thank you everyone for the participations. I have learned a lot of things and I have taken a lot of notes on that regard. Thank you, Paul, particularly for the phrase that you've given us. I think we can take it as an icebreaker. Amesema a group of women is called a chama, then a group of men becomes they're speaking important matters, but then a group of young people we are called jambazis. Once we go out there for non-violent displays of actions, people do not take us seriously because they do not understand our means. So we actually need to sit down and have the conversation on public participation. Now, public participation, there are 8 ranks towards public participation, and basically we normally divide them into 3. So that we can ensure we completely understand, let's take a look at the ranks. So the first phase is called the manipulation phase, where you're just given information and then you're told this is how we are going to be doing things. It's not necessarily broken down for you to understand and to say yes or no. No, you're given information and you're told this is how we're going to be doing things. So, for instance, if they were going to dig a borehole in your area, they call you together and they're like, so what the government is planning to do, what this organization is planning to do is to dig a borehole in your area. That, by the end of the day, just becomes manipulation because we have just given you the information and we have given you the information and structured it in a way that seems that it is good for you. We have not asked you whether it's good for you or not. We really don't want to have that information. In the manipulation phase, we just want to know, we want you to know that we are doing it. Then we have the tokenism, where we actually give you an opportunity to speak. We give you a seat in the table. We give you a platform to be seen, like most of us have said, that they went for these public participation forums, but they were not really involved. And yet we have so many youth issues that are being solved through these public participation forums. They are saying, patia vijana wetu kazi in these public participation forums, yet vijana wetu hatuko hapo, sisi ndio tunaitwa jambazi when we get together and actually go there. So you're called upon, like Job said in his example, he said he has attended public participation forums, not 1, not 2, but he says the reason as why he attended these forums was because his job, and Job is known because he's a youth leader and he participates in so many things. Now, to fight for inclusivity would be every single person who is a youth should be involved in public participation, and we should come up with ways that ensure that public participation actually gets to all of these people. The last phase would have to be citizen participation. This is where citizens have full powers, citizens have full control. We sit in the table, 90% of us are citizens, and then we have someone who's an expert on the side because we just need the information from them. But they give us the information and we use that information to make the right kind of decision. So the question is, what kind of participation are the youths being given in Kenya? All right. So as we break down that, it is important to notice that all of us in this meeting at least have attended public participation. So hope is not lost. So that means that we have actually been part of these conversations. We have actually attended them. Whether or not they were effective, at least it is a tick in the book to say that we have attended public participation forums. And it is also essential to recognize that the government has actually put up these platforms. Now, I want us to go ahead and ask the questions of what platforms exist between the government and the people to facilitate public participation within the youths. Apart from the barazas that some of you have talked about, apart from the specific organizations, the KWS and KFS, as I have heard, planning these meetings? What are some of the other platforms that exist for young people to actually participate in public participation? So I'm going to ask this question to Judge Bush. Please, Judge Bush, let us know what are your views on the platforms that exist to facilitate engagement between the youth and public institutions.
Thank you, Mr. Remy. So first, I think getting my background as a lawyer, I'll have to delve first into the Constitution. The Constitution provides that all power belongs to the people of Kenya, and it shall be exercised through their elected representatives. So that is our first mechanism for public participation. The people that we elected are supposed to be our voices in government. And I know it's sad that most of the people that we have elected are not really youths, but it is an opportunity that has been put there for us to at least get in government, get in public, in governance, and see how we can address the issues of the youth. Article 55 of the Constitution gives government the responsibility to, give the youths opportunities to associate for representation, for public participation, and it also, the Constitution also gives Parliament the mandate to enact legislation to promote representation of marginalized groups, which includes the youth. Now, to this end, there is established a National Youth Council, and I don't think most of us know this, but this was established under the National Youth Council Act of 2019. Now, one of the functions of this council is to promote the relations between the government, youth organizations, and individuals. And it's also supposed to act as a voice and a bridge between the youth and the government, and promote inclusion of the youth in governance by public institutions and organizations. So that is one of the mechanisms I think that the government has placed. But I have to point out that it has been observed that for the National Youth Council, the membership has somewhat been elitist. Not really many youths at the grassroots levels have been involved in, running of the National Youth Council. And I can attest that not many people even know that the council exists or its functions, because until last week, I did not even know that it existed until I went to one of these meetings and I heard that someone says they work with the National Youth Council. Apart from that, we have devolution to thank, because there is no better time for a youth to be involved in governance as it is now. Devolution has brought government to the grassroots level. And for this, I think we have different forums. We have forums like the County Budget and Economic Forum, which is set up to coordinate and get views of the communities, which includes the youth, during the planning of the budgets for the counties and even for the national government. There are specific sector working groups. For example, like we have border associations, we have Juakali sectors. These specific working groups carry the youth. And once they have an organized system, it is easy for them to reach the specific departments of government that are meant to address their issues. Apart from the sector working groups, we have county public participation forums, which are basically gatherings of different members of the community. Mostly, they always gather for information sharing on issues which concern that community. And maybe if there are intended projects, intended development opportunities for the youth. I remember there is this public forum I went to last week on climate change. And at that place, that is when I knew that 2% of county government revenue is supposed to be directed towards organizations which do community development projects. And you'll find that most of these organizations are youth groups. There are, as we talked about public barazas, those are also mechanisms. I can't say they're really set by the government, but there are mechanisms that exist. Now, we also have roundtable discussions, but these ones are mostly geared towards organized groups. For us, like I work with an organization, Homeless of Kisumu. We are part of the consortium of street actors, which brings together different organizations. Now, every quarter, we meet for a roundtable discussion on the best ways to, deliberate on the best ways to reduce the street population, to help to reintegrate the street children back to their homes, because we also deal with children mostly. And we have interest groups. These are specific groups, for example, people with disabilities, youth groups. These are mechanisms that exist at mostly the grassroots level. And I will point out that it is not really, I wouldn't say the government hasn't provided opportunities for the youth to be involved, but it is us as the youths who don't really see these opportunities as something that we would love to be involved in, because most of the community engagements that we have organized as organizations, as an organization, we have put opportunities out there and invited youths, but you find that most of the people who attend are aged 35 and above, because a youth will look at this engagement and they'll be like, okay, what is in it for me? I have some other things I need to do. So I think the mechanisms are there, the opportunities exist, but information passage might be the biggest challenge that we face as youths, and maybe interest groups. So I think, okay, Wangeshi, unless there is another question, I will have to stop there in the interest of time. So you can move on to the next question. Thank you.
That was a very beautiful brief. I have learned so much. And I believe I speak for the most of us when I say that we have actually learned so much about some of these platforms that existed. And you have said something that is very important. Most of the youths in Kenya and in East Africa in general do not have the right kind of information about the platforms that the government has put forward. And so, to my panelists, just message me and let me know. Do you think whose fault is it that the youths do not know about these platforms? Thank you, Bush, for the analysis and putting forward all of these platforms. I personally do not know about the 2% revenue that should go to people doing community development, because most of us, actually all of us here, the panelists today, are actually leaders for some community development group. So if we knew that, we'd actually take that opportunity into great consideration. I also want to hear what Job has to say on the matter, seeing as he's the guy on inclusivity. Please, Job, let us know what other platforms, apart from the ones that Bush has told us, exist to actually form the platform for public participation so that we can deal with the youth's emerging issues. Job Mugania, are you with us? All right, it seems like Job has left the room. Information has become a bit too, oh, he's here. Wonderful. Job, tell us, what other platforms are there?
Thank you so much for that question. I would say currently don't have more platform youth-friendly there, which youth can participate or engage in. But I can say one of the biggest platform that youth need to participate is the community barazas, which the chief normally called on. So I will request youth in our respective areas to register as self-help group, youth group, women group, and let the chief understand our operation and what we are doing as a group in that area, so that during any activity, any engagement, they're going to be called. And also it's good to tag yourself with one way or the other, the sector or the department that you're working with or passionate about. For example, use examples for me. When you talk about the platform or the exists for youth participation in the community, one is that in 2018, I registered a community-based organization called the TAGI, which has been able to get grant from the government, from ndoto zetu do season 1 and other things. And after registration, it thought about, because I was able to go for attachment and work with the Ministry of Labor. And so I thought is the best for me. I concentrate with elderly people. We'll just do advocacy and food relief. Through that, I've been engaging since 2018. I've been shortlisted as among the stakeholders in that community. So in case they need any policy, any activity, any project, I've been involved. So it is good for us youth to understand our strength and register or work with the government in those departments or those ministries. That is the easiest or the best platform that will encourage for us to give feedback. For example, this year you have been celebrating 1st October is International Day of Elderly. So we did an event in Kisii where we're just trying to advocate issues affecting the elderly, the senior citizen, and how to work. Second, I've been able to have a second organization called the Master Empowerment in Githurai. In case of any issue affecting disability, I've been called by the county government to engage with them about disability. So I've been working with the issues of disability. We've been providing wheelchairs. The chief knows the people who need wheelchairs, the informers, we work with them, work with the community health volunteers. So I will normally say the platform is you and me to create. In our system, we don't love smooth platform. I'll be honest, like even now, government has learned that we're looking about issues of environment, they're putting more money, they have a committee, but in the ground, kumbuka, the top will benefit, but us will not benefit. So the best way for us as youth is you and me. Let us hook up with the right people, network with the right people, work with the right department that you think this is what I'm passionate about. For example, I've been had some people talking about environment, they're working with the county government on environment. So let us position ourselves strategically and very smart. That is the best and sure platform that will tell you. Issues about Twitter, the people in charge of policies, that senior citizen, wajui Twitter ni nini. Issues is only about social media, the TV, they listen, they will learn that this is an issue, or the issues that you go to the office, in sitting down that platform, they understand this is an issue. For example, in the stakeholders of a senior citizen, I normally see as myself as the youngest person sitting in that committee, where I share points and I share this is what we need. And they've been supporting me, fundraising for me each and every activity that they do. So it is our time as youth to stand out, to speak about the issues affecting us, and also for us to just be there. Thank you.
Okay, that was a very detailed approach towards it, Job. Job has said basically what Bush said, but with live examples, because a point that I have actually taken notes from Job is organization of groups. So I have run a poll with my panelists and I've asked them, did you guys know about the 2% of government revenue that should go to community development? And most of these organizations are youth-based. And people are saying, I've never heard of that. Someone has said ignorance is no defense. So today we're doing it the Speak Up way. We're informing you, we are empowering you, and we're engaging you in conversations so you can get the right kind of information that is necessary for you to actually approach all of these things. For you to actually, the next time you say, oh, we are not being involved in governance, you remember ignorance, as someone has said it, is not defense. All right, so I want Peter for you to actually structure for us this information. Yeah, Job has said that he has been involved in all of these things, and the reason he has been involved is because he's part of organizations. He has actually been part of spearheading organizations. Now, you also said in your conversation that you have been part of a public baraza where you're not able to speak. So I'm going to ask you the question of how do you think the government can structure these public participation forums for them to be able to include the youth? I also want to take note of what Job has said. He has said no one is going to come and collect data for you on Twitter. So what do you have to say about that to the Kenyan youths and the East African youths in general that go to Twitter to call out bad policies and things like that? How can they structure the ways to ensure that they actually reach the government?
Thank you. Can you get me? Am I audible enough? Okay, so first of all, the question I always ask myself is the government the issue, or rather, where does the issue come from? When you're dealing with an issue, you go to the root cause. Now we deal from below going upwards. Before we tell the government to include us, what are we doing as youths to ensure that we are felt so that we can be included in that system? That is a question I ask myself each and every day. We don't take up the mandate as such, and I feel like lack of information, first of all, affects most of the youth. And just the way you said, ignorance is not defense. Now, how many people have just come up with in a group in a community and say like we are youths? Just first, let's say in a community, in a county or in a village, you just go to the chief and tell him this and this is what is happening, and this and this is what you are facing as youth. How do you feel like we can help one another to address such? So I just feel like the government is reluctant because the youth as well, we are not like proactive as such. So I would feel like there is need to both parties to up their game in terms of how are we approaching each and every individual in this case, both parties, the youths, how are they approaching the government and how the government will approach the youth. So there is need to find a common ground so that we understand like this and this is what needs to be done so that at least these people don't feel like they are left out. And as the youth as well, we need to understand that the government might feel like we are backing down from the fight, so they have a lot of issues to deal with. And when it comes to decision making, we have to put in that effort to ensure that at least we are felt we can make better decisions. Come now, come later, and just take up that responsibility. So I would say it's best if there is public engagement each and every time, as low as the village level, the county level as such, so that at least from a given village, from a given uh, locality, there will there will be a leader who will be representing the youth and who will be linking up with the government, rather at the county level, to understand that this and this needs to, and there is a bridge that needs to be built in between to link up the two, and that will mean a representative from both parties. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Peter. So Peter has actually asked the question out loud, the question that we've all been asking ourselves: whose fault is it necessarily? Is it the people's fault because we do not know about the structures of governance that allow us for public participation? Or is it the government's fault because they have not informed us? So I want to actually structure the question in a different way, and I want Lamek to help me with this. Tell us, what do you think the youths are actually doing to ensure that they're being involved in governance, to ensure that they're actually part of the story, part of the everything that goes down? What are the youths doing? Because we can sit there and blame each other, but we could also sit here and actually note of the things that the youths are doing and the things that the government is doing. So now that we have noted what the government has done, what are the youths doing? Lamek, to you.
Thank you so much, Wangeshi and my colleagues. I think I'm really learning a lot, actually, and it's quite impressive as well. So as young people and as youths of this country, I think we can't also be just seated there saying that we are not doing anything at all. Most young people are doing things out there, and you guys can attest to this. The example is among the panelists and also those who are joining in, because they have different initiatives they are running out. We have different projects and programs that are running out the same. But to start us off is that I think, okay, it's not much, but I think young people, this platform as well, I think it's dubbed Speak Up now. So the moment young people are speaking up, we are normalizing these conversations about youth engagement. It's one way in which we are also able to ensure that at least, even though hope is not yet lost, because people are still passionate and people are still looking forward that this is something that we can really achieve. So really, young people are really speaking up out there, and they are they are pushing this agenda forward. And thank you so much for spearheading this. And it's only through this way that we also be able to inform other youths as well, because as we learn, as the change makers, we learn and also be able to share them with other people as well, so that we can create that culture and also we can create that information among the targeted groups as well. The next thing, I think young people are right now bold enough, as you saw maybe in the last couple of elections. Governance, we can't talk about governance without talking about matters to do with elections, matters to do with having good leaders in place and all. And I think young people have been brave enough, even though we haven't achieved that, the required or the one that we have specifically wanted to achieve in regards to how young people are getting out, maybe just to cast their votes to elect the good leaders they need. And also young people are actually contesting to these leadership positions. So young people have been tried their best. And I know of my friend, just at the age of 21 years, decided to vie for an MP seat. Though she didn't get it, but at least it shows that young people at least have now are really trying to tap into this opportunity, because that most of the time, I think for us young people, we think that maybe political spheres is mostly for some people at a specific age, matter to do with leadership and all that. But at least having that courage to just vie for a position, it's still something that we can celebrate, and we can be brave on that as well. Another thing that young people are doing is like we have different. For most of us here, I think we've said that we've at least attended a baraza or two, or this participation forum by the government to do the same. So that really shows that even though we have quite level of ignorance, but at least there are people who are already doing something. They're already getting into these discussions, even though they are not involved, but they already know they are not involved. So the main task for us is like, so what best can we do as young people to ensure that, okay, we are not involved, we feel that this is the gap. So what is the solution towards it? That's also something I think we need to really get into and also be able to carry forward. Then maybe this one is something that I still think there is a gap in regards to information. I think most of us, and I, myself included, we really need to challenge ourselves on how we acquire information, how we formalize them, and also how we are able to apply them. You see, most of the times, and I think some of the issues that really hinder us and we feel that we are not much involved is the lack of information. How many of us knew about the 2% that Bush have talked about? How many of us knew about something to say with National Youth Council? So even though we are complaining quite often that we are not involved, sometimes they're not involved because, yes, we are just there, we are youths, we keep on complaining, but there is nothing that you're not doing. There is nothing that you're doing. The moment you seem to be doing something, it also gives someone an upper hand, or someone an opportunity to also be able to boost you on the same. But if we just be seated in wherever we are seated and complaining won't help. So this is the challenge. How do we go about it? Let's be more action oriented and focused on finding solutions, not just complaining. If now again we are not involved, this and this is not going on as well as promised. Then also young people, I think they are normalizing this aspect of I would like to disagree with some of the panelists and also some of us in this forum. For me, I still believe social media is a wonderful tool. Someone mentioned about Twitter, but we have different ways in which we can share information and we can get the information. I understand most of these people may not be on Twitter or Instagram or Facebook, but most of the information are gotten through these platforms, leave alone the Googles and all the documents and all the same. So I still believe that we can still tap into that, not only targeting these people, but also as a means of sharing this information about policy. Because I'm aware this panel discussion you're having here, it will be posted somewhere, maybe on YouTube. So also that's a way of passing information, and also it's a way of encouraging most of us to be in matters governance and all the same. So young people are really, we are not there yet, but at least some of the efforts, we can't say that we are doing really absolutely nothing. We are not there yet, but we still need to go further. We still need to seek more mentorship as well, because I think most of the times also young people, we feel that most of these people in big leadership position are like our enemies, which should not be the case. Let's understand that we won't be youth forever. Leo, I'm a youth. What about 10 years to come? There are also the young people who will come after us. So what did I do differently at my age that will inspire or that will change the narrative for the next young person when he or she comes into my age. So we should also need to encourage the aspect of mentorship. Let's be ready to learn. Actually, I think none of us has the monopoly of knowledge. Am I able to learn something from someone? Am I able to learn something from my governor, something from my MCA and all that? So these are people who should also be mentoring us, but they only be willing to mentor us if we are available, first of all, for that, and we're also willing to have this agenda pushed forward. Yeah, so those are some of the few points that I think that young people really need to do, and also the things that they are doing, which is quite encouraging. The only urge or the only more wake up call to action is that let's let's try scale up whatever we are doing. And also, if we find that there's normally we normally say that if you find plan A not working, okay, we can't be approaching the same problem with the same solution and expect different results. So we also need to ask ourselves, what can we do differently? But my main urge will be it starts at individual level. So you as a young person, what are you doing before we start complaining and blaming the government and everyone out there that we are not involved? Thank you, and back to you, Sheshi.
All right, thank you.
Ms. Kareme,
I feel yes.
if I may add on to what Peter and Lamek have said, first, it's a proposition on what the government can do. Now, in 2018, the government had a draft policy guideline on public participation. I am sure it has not been passed. So that is something that should be passed, because it will guide a lot of things concerning the bureaucracy around that. Now, as youth, the first thing we can do is organization. The government prides itself on organization. You cannot just decide one day to go to a public meeting that you're a single and you want your voices to be heard. So organization first. And now, after organization, what can we do? We can advocate for the passage of this national policy guideline on public participation. That is one thing you can do through organization. The National Youth Commission, it's out there. We can present a petition to get more information on its effectiveness and why it is not reaching the grassroots level. Number 3, we can make proposition on the creation of structures for mentorship. When I got admitted as an advocate, we were informed about a mentorship program that the judiciary is initiating for young advocates. We can do this for youths in leadership sectors, parliament, county governments. There can be mentorship programs for youth leaders. Here we have YALI. YALI is a mentorship program for leaders. Do we have one locally? That is something that can be pushed by us. Now, we can also change the way we approach elections. As at the moment, youth approach elections as supporters of some politicians somewhere. You see, and this politician is not a youth. We do not support our own. We do not support ourselves. We don't see ourselves as having that ability to lead yet. We say, maybe when I get to 35, I'll become an MP. No, we have MCS who are 70, 60 years old. These are positions that youth really need to maximize on. And the last point is that we need to lobby the Ministry of Youth Affairs and the National Youth Council to fully implement the youth development policies, because these are structures that exist, but they're not really implemented. So the youth are left out at the end of the day. These are things that we can do once we get organized, identify a particular interest and push towards that. Thank you.
That was very, very detailed. Lamek and Bush, that was detailed. I'm seeing the comments from different social sites that this is going, and they're saying Wakili is spitting knowledge. So indeed, our lawyer Bush is spitting knowledge. Now I want to take us back to you, David, and I want you, David, to answer on behalf of Pearl City. There was a meme going around, and you had replied to our governor, Susan Kihika herself, and you had actually given her a few views towards how they should structure governance. So my question is going to be, what do you think? Just to add on what Lamek and Bush and everyone has said, what do you think the government can do to actually ensure that we, the youth, are actually involved in public participation? Of course, noting clearly that they have already put up structures where the youth can get involved, and we also noted that the fault is not just on the government, it's also on the youth. What do you think? What more? I should ask it that way. What more Moraes do you think the government can do?
Oh, that's nice. That's nice. So I must say, we say that time is also on our side. So you must learn to manage time because you can imagine since the time I an introduction and say it's almost an hour. Please just learn to keep time here because yeah, we're not here, for the whole time. I'm up for the whole night. Back to your question. I like the way Lamek and our lawyer just said they just need it, and I like that way. So to me, I will really say because first I will give a story where I just like 3 days ago, I think, yeah, 3 days ago before Mashuja Day. Yeah, so we had a meeting with members of the county assembly of Nakuru, and then we were just talking about what can we do as youth or as this young generation as far as future and climate is concerned. So we had a long talk, and we had our county admin. We had this climate change, climate change. We call them representative from the county. So it was like you were having a conversation with the county. And then, at the end of the day, the point is that we drove this point out, like, we have to really sit down and figure out basically from where you come from, what can you do to better the environment, and it really came to my point, realizing that we mostly focus on readers and forget that we ourselves are readers, yeah. And I'm like, Nina, I'm waiting for someone to do something because he's a leader or because I choose him to be a representative of my village or MCA or something of sort. And now I'm not doing just anything, I'm just sitting there. And this is what for me, this is what I really said, and this is what I will always say, and I will live by. I am a reader today, and I am a reader tomorrow, and forever I will be a reader. What are the characters and what are the standards of a reader? You all know the standards of a reader. You don't need, for example, you don't need someone for you to do something which should be fixed by you. So to your question, I really say our governor or MCA or our president of the 2% or us doing these platforms, they are all good. They're all amazing. And we get the skill and the knowledge from others. But we still need to go back to the basics. We are the leaders. We are the representative of where we come from. You cannot say that you want to preserve environment, where you come from or where you live. You don't know even how to do, cycling of your household identity, something of sort, So I really say, let's not wait for the leaders or the elect ones to do what we want them to do. Let them start seeing to change from us, and then going forward, at least, so you come to realize, hey, man, we have this CBO, we have this and this and that, and now they come chipping in and trying to push us because at times you understand financially it becomes a struggle thing. But when we start showing up, we start representing ourselves to the fullest with what we have. Not just sometimes we don't really need money, but we basically look at the CPOs and everything like it's a source of income or as a source of some side hustle, It's all this thing. If you are environmental or something of sort, or you are a leader somewhere, you do what's right. Don't wait for me or don't wait for your followers to do what you think is right. Yeah. So back to you, Shishi. I don't really want to waste time, but I really like to hear from others first, mostly from Bugs. Thank you. Shashi,
I like what you said. Yes. I'm sorry, something happened with the streaming. Like I said, thank you so much, David, for that very intense conversation. One thing you said and you said again and again is, I asked you the question of what should the government do, and you say the government is not your problem. Your problem should start with you. Are you a leader? Are you a person that takes initiative by yourself? As an individual, you should start there. Once you have completed the individual, then you've completed your community, then you can start pointing fingers to the government. That and what Bush said and what Lamek says wants it up for us on that question. So I want Bugs to come, and because Bugs is a leader, the way I know him, he's a leader of young people. I want Bugs to come on board and to tell us now what more. The question is more. There are things we're already doing. There's things the government is already doing. What more can the youth do in 1 or so minutes so that we can actually wind up the conversation? Bugs.
Hello.
Hello.
Basically, my take on this is that what my colleague just said is that we're supposed to strategically position ourselves as youth if we want the change that we want to see in our communities. And by saying so, we know that as I think I've already learned, and most of my colleagues have learned, there's so much information that is being passed out here. There's so much information coming from the government. There are so many channels that pass information down from the government all the way to the common man. Are you positioning yourself strategically to get that information? We as youth, most actually citizens, have the tendency of complaining, becoming more of a problem. If there's an issue, why not be part of the solution? Why not be a co-partner? Why not be a partner in making creating that solution? And basically, I will give an example. If we're saying as if the government is not pushing its policies, what maybe basically is commonly known as the paper policies, where people in the higher government go have meetings, have sit downs, and basically come up with policies that we don't even see being implemented. If we see that as an issue, why not be part of the policy implementation, or be part of the policy making? We want to be basically want the youth to position themselves strategically in getting this information straight to the source. And I believe the government, I'm not really sure about this, but I believe the government offices now don't operate the same as they used to operate 10 years ago. If we walk into a government office right now and ask for opportunities for the youth, or maybe information about a specific issue, you will get the information. If you don't get the information, you can always go on Twitter, go on Facebook, comment about that specific office, comment on who you talked about, and definitely you will get feedback on that. And if we cannot even really use the resources that we have, like social media, then can we really stand up and say that we are not getting information if we're not even pushing on our very end? And that's just one of the ways we can do that, because for the longest time the youth have been seen as a problem. The youth has been seen as the youth has been seen as basically we have been discriminated, and it's high time we stand up and we show that we're not that. Why not be part of that solution? Why not be part of that implementation? Because if we are part of the implementation, then basically we're not standing up as leaders of tomorrow, but we're leaders of today, and that is basically what we're trying to do as the youth. And I believe if everyone takes it upon themselves, takes an initiative upon themselves, to ensure that we're getting the work done, and we're getting the policies implemented, we're walking into the right offices, and we're making sure that information that I get is getting to my neighbor, next door neighbor, and maybe to the next person from my social media platforms. And I guess we can do a lot, because I attended a session rather.
Okay. Unfortunately, Paul, your microphone is not clear. So I hope this gets to you. And that's the problem with digital conversations. Sometimes we get to the point where it's a bit shaky. Your microphone has not been clear for a while, but I have heard a few things, and I believe I speak for most of us when we say, Paul has said so much about position yourself strategically, making sure that you're in the line of governance. So if there are people calling each other to come for a meeting, put yourself in that position. He said we keep on complaining, but we ought to be part of the solution. And he also said something about policy implementation. He said that if we feel the policies are not being implemented the way we want it to be implemented, then it is up to us to actually call out the government. To say the offices are not the way they were before. So right now, if you go to an office and you're not treated the way you think you should be treated, you can call them out on Facebook and actually tell them, I'm calling you out on Facebook. They meant their ways, because who wants to become a meme? Nobody. So, Paul, thank you for that. I am so sorry to cut you short, but your video and audio is a bit shaky. And for our live audience out there, let us not bore them. I would like to call this meeting to an end, but right now, let's just look at a bit of the breakdown of everything and everyone that has said. We say that, number one, the government does actually have the structures for governance that allows the youth to participate. It is up to you to actually not be ignorant, as Emmanuel Gishuru has written on our chat. He said, ignorance is no defense. So stop being ignorant and actually take up responsibility. Go find that information. Position yourself strategically, to use the words of some of my panelists. So put yourself in a position where you can actually be participating publicly. Another thing that we've also said is that the youths are not even sitting down. We're not just ignorantly sitting down. We're also taking part in some measures to ensure that we are part of that governance. So we need to find an in-between. We need to keep pushing, and the government needs to keep pushing. Everyone needs to keep doing their best to ensure that we actually get that level where we feel like we have participated fully. Speak Up Africa is an organization that allows for such conversations to take place. So now we actually know about the 2% of revenue. Now we have actually gotten some sort of information. Involve yourself in such conversations, and you end up having conversations that are helpful to you. Because right now, it's your time to speak up. As a youth, it is your time to take responsibility, to take initiative, and actually speak up. And with that, I want us to call it a day. Thank you so much to my panelists from all the organizations that have been represented here. Thank you for joining us, and for being part of the whole conversation, and for actually giving us the pointers that we have needed. From GRC, thank you. From Homeless of Kisumu, thank you. From Africa Team Building, thank you. From Pearl City, Green Pearl City Movement, thank you. From TOFA, thank you. From YALI, thank you. And from KIAN, also Kenya Environmental Activist Network, even though we had to cancel last minute, thank you very much. All right, so now we can leave the studio. It was wonderful having you people as my panelists.
Thank you.
Thank you very much for having us.